Hello and welcome to Untwisted Threads. This yarn is called Filcolana Peruvian. This 100% Peruvian Highland wool yarn features 71 colors to choose from, including solids and heathers. The colorway that we chose is 352 Red Squirrel, and in my opinion is the perfect gingerbread or orange rust brown. This 50 gram skein with 100 meters or 109 yards works up as a worsted or Aran weight yarn. The suggested gauge on 4 to 5 millimeter needles is 16 to 20 stitches and 22 to 28 rows per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. For my swatch, I will be using a 4.5 millimeter needle size. In today's video, we're going to review and score Filcolana Peruvian using our 5 categories, which are availability, softness, traction, durability, and cost, to help you decide if this is the best yarn for you in your next project. Stay tuned until the end for a few pattern recommendations as well. Let's get started. For availability, we give Peruvian a score of 3 out of 5. Unfortunately, this yarn is not available at craft stores in the US that I know of and has to be shipped here internationally from Canada or the United Kingdom. But just hang on a second, do not let this deter you from considering this yarn because shipping internationally is not as intimidating as you may think. For softness, we give it a score of 4.5 out of 5. This beautifully rustic yarn is what I described as a soft, woolly feeling yarn. It's not the softest yarn out there, but even my sensitive skin can enjoy it without issue. At first, I wasn't sure if it would be too rustic for my skin while working with it, but I was pleasantly surprised. I would say this yarn is a little bit less soft than Drops Daisy, but softer than Cascade 220, making it pretty comparable, if not slightly softer than the Blueface Leicester in West Yorkshire Spinner's Fleece, which if you watched that video, I raved about that yarn too. The 100% Peruvian Highland wool content of this yarn has a micron count or softness scale rating of approximately 27, but I would definitely say that this particular yarn is more accurately a 26 or even a 25, like the softer Blueface Leicester yarn that it feels like. Even though this yarn is not superwash treated, it still has such a nice hand. When knitting, often I can tell right away how itchy a yarn is going to be. My hands noticed the yarn as I worked with it, but it wasn't itchy or rough enough that I felt like I needed a break from it, if that makes sense. And I definitely noticed that it softens after blocking too. I, of course, have felt more rustic and also softer yarns than this before, but I would consider this one to be on the softer side of a happy medium. Peruvian Highland wool is a fiber that is light, soft, and easily absorbs moisture that will keep you nice and warm. It's also known for its breathability and will actively react to the changes in a body's temperature. For traction, we give it a score of 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed working with this yarn. Similar to the Blueface Leicester, I just couldn't believe that I was able to work with a more woolly yarn without it irritating my skin as I was working with it. It knitted up well for me, not too slippery and not too much grip on my nickel-plated needles. It does have some medium-length fiber sticking up, but I didn't notice these getting in the way. The high twist of this yarn also didn't give me any issues with splitting or coming apart. As you can probably imagine, this yarn looks and acts like a Peruvian Highland wool, but this one has that little bit of a softer hand. Whether you're a beginner or even a more experienced knitter, I think it has the perfect amount of traction and glide on the needles. For durability, we give it a score of 4.5 out of 5. I love how this yarn has a softer hand than more rustic wools, but it is still very durable. Just think about where this yarn originates from, Peru. The sheep that source this yarn are able to withstand the harsh weather conditions of the Andes, and that includes their wool. The qualities of Peruvian Highland wool and the higher twist both allowed this yarn to have an increased amount of strength and make it hardier than, for example, merino yarn. Because it is not superwash treated, you will need to hand wash your garment made with this yarn. As the nature of wool, you may have some pilling and could experience some felting in high friction areas, so that's also something for you to keep an eye out for. For cost, we give it a score of 4 out of 5. For being a 50-gram skein, you can expect to pay $5 US per skein, depending on where you purchase it from and the conversion rate to the dollar. This breaks down to about 4 cents per yard, meaning a size medium sweater would cost approximately $45 US. So it's not the cheapest yarn in the world, but for the price, you're getting a very durable yarn that is soft. After working with it, I have no hesitation paying this price for the quality and softness of this yarn. Overall, we give Filcolana Peruvian a score of 4.2 out of 5. This yarn is a workhorse and will last a long time if you take care of it. I can honestly say that I may have found a new favorite yarn. Again, just because this yarn is mostly sold in the United Kingdom, you can take my word for it that this yarn is worth the waiting time and the shipping. And if you're wanting to use this yarn but is not the right weight for your project, Filcolana offers a 3-ply DK weight version using the exact same fiber as this yarn. It's called Pernilla and it comes in 34 colors. I'll leave a link for that in the description too if you'd like to check it out. Now we had a little look on Ravelry and wanted to share a few pattern recommendations with you, hopefully to inspire you if you're wanting to make a project with this yarn. The first pattern is called Single Malt by Maxim Sari. It's a top-down raglan with an all-over moss stitch style pattern. From experience, I can say this one is a fun and pretty quick knit. I personally just love how wool yarn looks in combination with a fun stitch pattern. And actually, the red squirrel colorway looks pretty similar to the color of the sample. Now that I'm talking through this pattern, I may just need to knit another one in this colorway too. What do you think? The second pattern has actually been on my to knit list for quite some time and is sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It is an oversized sweater worked from the top down and consists of a texture pattern using only knits and purl stitches. For the sample, she uses 1 strand of wool and 1 strand of mohair to meet gauge, but I think Peruvian would look beautiful on its own. I honestly don't think you could go wrong by choosing any of the 71 colorway options to knit this pattern in. I love the classic neutral like shown in the sample, but again, I think this red squirrel color would look so beautiful too. Lastly is the Billie Pullover by Sari Nordlund, an all-over texture and cable design knitted in Cascade 220, but I think Peruvian would be an excellent yarn choice. The sweater is knitted seamlessly top down with charted cables and raglan increases. The sleeves and body are separated at the underarms and knit separately. Lastly, the neckband is picked up from the body and knitted in the round as well. As you've probably noticed by the other 2 recommendations for this yarn, I think this yarn is just itching to be made into a textured, woolly looking sweater, and I don't think you could go wrong choosing any of these patterns, or even all 3 if you wanted. Have you used Filcolana Peruvian yarn before? What yarn would you like for us to do a review on next? We would love to hear your thoughts and recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed our review, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.